Hello again. This is me for the third time recording myself building this website, Bread.li or Bread.li. And sorry, I'm playing around with the microphone a bit too much. And where are we up to? Just make sure we're recording properly. Good. Okay. So last time we were creating an issue. We can come back to that issue in a moment. We completed a few issues here, and we completed these issues, and then we completed them on the master branch. And then what I did is right after the recording that I did, I pretty much just fiddled around with the audio on it and knocked it up to YouTube, which took hours because it was just a raw video, and I'm just chucking it up there. So I leave it overnight to process, and in the morning I I think like really early in the morning I merged it into the GitHub Pages branch, which is what this is. Non-experts in GitHub might not know that if you reference it, then it will reference it back on the other end. So I can click through on this, and it will come through to this merge issue that kind of comes up. It comes up as like an issue, but it's a merge thing, but it also comes up as a commit as well. And you can do that, so you can like, not only can you mention it here, you can mention it in a commit, so you can put a hash number in there and it will reference it, which is pretty cool. So you can also do, like, if you were doing a commit to fix an issue, you can do fixes space hash 2, say that you want to fix this, say this is an issue and you want to fix it, you could put a commit in, put fixes hash 2, for example, and it will close it. It will close the issue on GitHub automatically because it's seen that you've put the term fixes space hash 2. Or you can put fixes or fix or fixed, and as long as you prefix it in some manner of that way, I think if I look up automatically closing issues on GitHub, closing issues via commit messages. That may, a few of you probably already know about this, but I didn't know that it kind of like, it literally looks for this stuff in your commit messages. So you can put close, closes, closed, fixed, fixes, resolve, resolved. It's really cool. I tried doing something similar like this, and I didn't do it quite right. I put fixes and then put hash 1, hash 2, hash 3, and it didn't do that. You kind of like got to put that, and then like keep going with it. But nonetheless, that is a pretty cool feature, and I try and use it because it gives this nice kind of paper trail to the commit messages. So so I did a merge, and I merged it all in. I put the iframe in there, and it came out like this. If you looked at the site, you will notice that it looks square, and it's using the 4x3 format pretty much. And basically what happened was I posted it up there, ignored the dimensions on it. This one had the correct dimensions on it, this one doesn't, and it hadn't processed, so YouTube didn't know what the ratio was, so they just put like a default ratio, and that's why it's come out like this. But I didn't care. I was tempted to like fix it, but I didn't want to fix it off camera, as you'd say, because I don't want to do too much stuff off these videos. Like, these videos are going to show pretty much everything except for these merges that I have to do, where it's literally you know, self-referencing. I can't really upload uh, the episode without stopping recording. Um, and yeah, and you may have noticed that my text is a lot bigger in here. That is the same for Coda as well. I made it a bit bigger. Someone said on one of the videos that it's too small, and that was a good point, so I did it. I would go. I can't really go back and fix the other videos, but we will call that a kind of a resolved issue, as it would say. It's the progress of this video, so they're probably going to improve as they go along, and hopefully this is a lot more readable to you guys. I'm pleased with this kind of layout because it means that the UI is still small and the code is just still nice and big, and it doesn't like, I don't get weird proportions when I'm working. I can still see stuff at a fairly reasonable size, but my code is just bigger. So that's cool. Let me switch back. So we've got these two in here. We resolved, well, we ticked off most of these. We haven't done any dependencies yet because we haven't really like installed anything with Bow yet. Like we haven't done any like proper front end. It's kind of like niggling at me really. I want to get on with some like stuff that's visible, but we've got to like set the groundwork so make sure everything is available to use. So we're not going, oh, I've got to do all that configuration stuff before I do the front end. I kind of want to build it as a site fully, and then like the design comes with it as you build it. And I know the design's going to be quite nice and clean. I'm going to just go for like, you know, it could even be quite thin, nothing too complicated. And it's, yeah, I just want to keep it like simple, nothing kind of wild. And then that, you know, maybe wild stuff will come later as we expand upon it. Okay, so we've got these issues. Let's go back to our issues here. We've got, the next one is start up Jekyll. So get Jekyll running, get a Bower dependency in there. That would be pretty cool to get one in there just to have and bust it. And then that would probably give us a justification to use a gulp dependency, or a gulp related dependency, I should say. I didn't get any ideas from anybody on what to do next. Let me just take a sip of my tea. Yeah, I've got tea going. Okay. Get Jekyll running. Right, I researched this today, just briefly on the Jekyll RB website. I did a little bit of Googling as well. There was no like set in stone stuff. The documentation's pretty damn good here. It's got everything. It goes on and on and on, which is great. And I needed to work out what the minimum I need to start up a Jekyll site. What is the minimum for it to start up? Now I know on the homepage it says new Jekyll site. If you run this, you can actually like have a site, it just builds it. You just go new and it will install a basic theme. Well, they're not really like themes, like standalone design. I suppose you can I suppose that would be in the partials. Yeah. Anyway, ignore me. You can just do new and then run it, and then you've got yourself a site, and it looks all right, responsive, does all that. But we're building our own. We're building our own design. We want our own stuff. So I want to build it from the ground up and have the excuse me, the bare minimum. But the bare minimum, but efficient. That's what I should say. An efficient project. It shouldn't be filled with stuff that I might use, but not will ever use. I need to have the right stuff in there, so that's why I want to do it properly from scratch. Okay, well, let's have a go. I think the only file that we need to start things off, and it says in the directory, this is the config file, which has all the configuration in it, surprisingly. So let's, is there a configuration? There's a configuration, here we are. Is there an example one of like, in its entirety? Is there one in here? No. Oh, hello. Where things are, handling and reading. This is everything. This is literally everything you can put in here. Pretty cool. There's lots of stuff that you go surprisingly that's actually available to use in the configuration file. But I just want the minimum. I want them, well, not the minimum. I want the ones where it's like what comes first. So next best thing to do from looking at the documentation is to look at their site once again, see how the pros are doing it. And we got some really simple stuff going on here. We haven't even got like where the site is hosted at. They haven't put that. Interesting. That's an interesting thing. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the site that I created using using Jekyll. I've been working on the documentation for my for where I work at. I work at BaseKit, if you didn't know, and we built our documentation in Jekyll so we could manage it, keep it incrementally updated, and reference it in our code base. You know, it's because it's technical documentation. It's a good way to present code and to maintain in a developer context. It's a good way of doing so, and luckily the people that work on the documentation are familiar with Jekyll and how it works. So that was the right tool for the right job, I think. Anyway, let's have a look at the configuration file I've set up for it. Okay, so I've got a URL, I've got a title, description, the repository it's in, just a load of like little options and things. That's an interesting aspect. Package.json. We're excluding a series of files here from the repo because obviously GitHub Pages is the branch where the actual site is processed and created. And obviously we don't want these files appearing in the site. So that answers my question from the previous video. Do I commit the package.json? And in reality, yeah, fine, doesn't matter because the resulting site is not there. It's just it's ignored. But in Jekyll's terms, it's ignored. So let's use both of these, kind of mix the settings together, and create a default. Let's use a combination of these. These seem to be containing very detailed stuff in here. They're setting things that they're necessities, like the syntax highlighting for the samples of code, relative permalinks, what markdown type to use. Cramdown is the same one that is similar to GitHub's one. I think it's called GitHub flavored markdown. I'm not sure if it's called Cramdown or they're another type. It's hard to track. Anyway, this is getting a bit boring. So let's create a file. Well, before we do anything, let's do git pull. Make sure we're up to date on the master. There we go. We've pulled down the GitHub pages updates, so that's in the background updated, so we can like switch to it if we need to. We don't need to, because that's what the live deployment branch is on. We just want to look at master because we're developing on it. Okay, let's make a new file in here. We're going to call it, whoa, not a new folder. Wow, you can see how many mistakes I make. Move to trash. Do you know what? Let's do it in Finder. You know, you don't want to see the code away. You want to see this way. And I can't create files in there. Let's just do new file. Wow. I need to wake up. New YAML. There it is. New YAML. And let's do URL, and we'll do HTTP bread.li. This is just something to put in the YAML file. I'm going to do a test because on that Jekyll site, and also the site that I worked on, they had all information that's like just used throughout the site. They're all like, think of the config file for you WordPress people out there as your kind of functions file, but in a very basic form. Imagine a list of all these items that you want to be able to call upon and have consistently mentioned throughout the site. An excellent example would be, what's my Twitter handle? So you would put Twitter handle in there, or Twitter : and then your Twitter handle or username. And then that means that every time you mention you want to spit out the your Twitter username, you can do consistently, and you can just change it in one location. So it's like a really basic form of functions file. And let's not put it in that documentation site. Let's put it in here. Config. All right, okay. I'm going to put return because it's always a good idea. Empty return at the end of your files. Unlike this, always do that. So let's try Jekyll serve. Okay, we're gonna try this. We're not gonna do the watch parameter, so it's updating as I'm making changes. We're just gonna find out if this actually runs, and if it actually runs, what will happen is it will create an underscore sites, not sites, site folder, and in that site folder is the site. So that's where it runs from. So imagine that's the root of your website, the site folder underscore site. I'll explain why the underscores are on there in a moment. Actually, it's generating, it's doing something. Done. Wow. Okay. So let's have a look in our folder structure. Let's go back to Finder. It's nice to look in here. Site. Okay. So that's not what we wanted to come out. We didn't want everything to come out. We need to obviously ignore a few of these files because we don't want them. We don't want them. We don't want to be able to go to Bread.li /cname or Bread.li /license. Well, maybe license, that could be useful. But then again, they'd look on the documentation. They ignore me. They only going to read me because they can just go to GitHub, and certainly don't want these two. It's not needed. However, let's check if that's working. So if you saw in the command line localhost or 00004000, so localhost 4000, Bread.li says hello. So there we are. Look, that's exactly the same. So that is Jekyll running, and Jekyll running with one file. Um, I'm feeling a bit risque here. I'd love to know if Jekyll will run with no configuration file. I'm anticipating because it saw that file, uh, that's all it needed. Let's find out what. Let's take baby steps here. Let's take baby steps. Okay. Okay. Firstly, whoops, that's coming in a text file. No matter. I am going to make this an empty file. And what I'm going to do is going to press Control C to cancel this. There we go. And I'm going to run that command again. Warning, error reading configuration using defaults and options configuration file invalid. Seems to be running. Seems to be doing something. That's interesting. Tell you what a better test would be is to delete these files. You can just delete these because in Jekyll's terms of creating a website, it goes, oh, here's all your stuff. Oh, let's just spit it into this. I shall put everything into the sites file and I will only do it once. And that will be the time that when it changes. So, done. Let's try it again, see what happens. Well, there you go. It does it. It does it. You can just run a Jekyll site without anything in the configuration. Let's take it one step further. We're going to get rid of both of these. We can get rid of the site folder as well because that will get generated as well every time Jekyll is ran. Yeah, let me just empty this folder. I don't like it. Yeah, it seems to be. Well, there you go. There you go. Jekyll doesn't require anything in order to run. For some reason, in the past, I thought that it needed a configuration file in order to do something. But maybe it changed in an update, or maybe I was wrong. That happens a lot. But yeah, Jekyll will run from anywhere. You can install Jekyll using Ruby. The installation process should be pretty easy to do. In fact, I'm not sure whether I installed it with... no, I installed it. Yep, gem install Jekyll. And concurrently, you can install Ruby using Brew. So I'm not going to do it because I'm worried it's going to go through that whole updating hassle that we had in the other episode. So all you need to do is Brew, install Ruby, and then once you've got Ruby installed, you can then do gem install Jekyll. And there might be a few things you might stumble over on where it finds Ruby and where it holds it on your computer. But if you take the time, make sure you've got things in place. Don't start using hacks or going wild with sudo unless you need to. Just watch out for those things. It's normally something really simple, like it's just looking in the wrong folder, and you need to make sure it is looking in the right folder. So take your time. There'll be plenty of Stack Overflow pages that come up saying just sudo it or whatever, but just take your time and find the right one. And if you're really getting stuck, just have a look at the documentation site for Jekyll, because they have just loads of information here. And what would be a better answer is to go to the GitHub documentation, because they'll probably have a few tips as well, because they work together to make Jekyll work on their site. Anyway, I digress. So we are running locally with no configuration file whatsoever. We could quite easily just run this site without a configuration whatsoever, but as you can see, we don't want all these files, so that justifies having a configuration file straight away. So what we can do is we shall cancel this command, and create another configuration file, or conveniently have one here. Let's save that back into Bread.li. Bam. So now what we need to do is literally ignore files, and I believe that command or that option is exclude. So let's exclude some files. This is obviously a YAML file. If you're not familiar, I keep saying if you're not familiar with something, I'm assuming there's a couple of people, there's going to be people out there that go, oh, I know what a YAML file is, and there's other people going, what, a YAML file? I've never even heard of that file name. Because there's some people out there that haven't heard of it, because they've been working on a completely different process. You're probably used to the JSON files, or plain text files, or whatever. You know, I didn't really know about YAML files until like probably a year ago, and it took a bit of time to like get in my head. But in my theory now, YAML files are just even plainer versions of JSON files. So a JSON file is just a list of stored information that JavaScript or PHP can read and go, oh, so that option means that, and that option is that. And YAML is just the same, except it has a certain syntax to it. So if you noticed in the docs file that we have here, we've got a property, I guess, if we say that, property, a property or an option exclude, and then it has items within it, and they're listed with these hyphens, and this is a list. This is actually kind of familiar to people who might have used Markdown, and you can do this and it creates a list in some option. So we can list out everything within it, and it has to be a dash and a space. It can't be a dash and a tab. You shouldn't use tabs in YAML files. It's all done with spaces and certain types of indentation. Like, for example, if you look down here, we've got an option and then another option within that, and then a value to it, and it's got a double space, 2 spaces. It's obviously very small here, so let's get something larger so you can see this a bit better. So we're going to do CNAME. We're not going to ignore the index file because we need that in whatever form. So CNAME, we shall ignore license. We shall ignore node modules. We shall ignore package.json and readme.md. And that is it. Now this is probably a good point to explain the file, why we have those underscores. If we didn't have those underscores, we'd be having to do this. We'd have to be doing we'd have to do config .yaml, probably site as well. I would not like to find out what happens if that ever came to fruition. But basically, the prefix underscore means that it will automatically be ignored by Jekyll, and that is just a way of it reading between files. So if it starts with an underscore, it's going to just straight up ignore it. And you could then put an underscore folder, and then everything within that is fine. So it will just pass over that and ignore it entirely. So that's why we don't have to have it in here. We can just leave these files in here, and that should be it. So let's remove these again. In fact, why am I even selecting them? I should just do this. So, configuration file done. Folder cleaned out. Where is our command line? Here it is. Let's try Jekyll serve again. No complaints about missing config file. Site is running. It's created the site, and it's created index.html. Now let's get a little bit clever. I hope you guys are like kind of enjoying the this part, because I think this is pretty cool when it starts kind of doing stuff and it starts building a site, and you're going, whoa, this simple thing on my machine is building a website. It's cool. So let's have a little bit of fun with this. Let's cancel this again. That's getting a bit tiresome, so I think I might start using that watch option, so it will watch the files as we're doing stuff and rebuild it accordingly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this HTML file into a markdown file. That's it. We're going to use a markdown file, and this stuff here will need to be moved. Will need to be moved into templates. This is when we start getting front end build going on. What we like for time? Half an hour already. Oh man. Well, I guess we ticked off one of the things in our to-do list. Get Jekyll running. We didn't get any Bower dependencies in there. Although that is a Bower dependency right there. We're using a CDN from Google to put the HTML5 shiv in there. Now we could put that in as a Bower dependency. That could be a great candidate for it. Let's do that. We won't use it. We'll just put it in as a Bower dependency, and then you get to see that happening. So what I'll do for now is turn this back into an index file, because I was going to show you the how you can use just markdown files and it will turn it into HTML files straight away. But the issue is all the gumph around the index file, like the head, and just all the kind of basic HTML stuff needs to be wrapped around the markdown file, because the markdown file just produces flat HTML, so it will just spit out a H1, H2 paragraphs, and then images, and then like links and things like that. It's not going to wrap it in a suitable web page format. It's clever, but it's not that kind of clever. That's what Jekyll's here for, to produce the site structure around it. So what we can do is we can get a Bower dependency going on. So before we get any further, let's do get status. And we've modified our index file. Let's do get diff index.html. Let's see the difference. I put a white space at the end of my HTML file because I missed it out. So let's press Q to quit that, And I'm going to do git commit index. If I tab, it auto completes for me. And my message is adds white space to end of index file. Cool. So let's do now git add. I'm going to show you if you can do config. So once again, I just started typing that and tabbed it because that's the only file with the beginning con. And we're going to add that, and then we do git commit m or -m, and the message is creates config file for basic setup of Jekyll. Yeah, so that's what's going to happen. And once we put this into GitHub Pages, into that GH page branch, it's going to stop thinking about the site being in the root, and it's going to start thinking the site's in that underscore sites directory. It's going to start running a server just like it did for us when I did Jekyll serve. It's going to start thinking, this is a Jekyll website. Okay, I need to be running Jekyll. And then, voila, it's running stuff. It's building things. It's only building it once, but it's building things. All right, so do that. And we'll do git push. Lovely. There we go, config file. There shouldn't be any change here. Although, what shouldn't be possible is this. But it is. Why? Why is that possible? And you see that downloaded it as well as a text file. Interesting. Oh, come on, David. That's going to happen because I haven't done a bloody merge into the here. I haven't done a pull request into it, so of course it's still the same. What a nincompoop. Right. Let's get this bad dependency in here. Let's get on with our issues. We're 37 minutes in. It's a shame, really. What we like for time? I may be able to fit another one in. What I'll do is I'll stop recording and then restart again. Because we're getting into the fun stuff now, in my eyes, and I want to keep going. So what I'll do is we'll stop, and then I shall start another video, hopefully, and then probably upload them together and just do 3 and 4 and see how it goes. All right. So we're going to put a bow dependency into this, and it needs to be a useful bow dependency, and that's what HTML5 shiv will do. It will help our elements, our HTML5 elements, to be read by browsers like old IE that doesn't really recognize them or doesn't really render them properly. So we need to go to bower.io, the official website for Bower, and we're going to search for packages, and we're going to search for HTML5 shiv. Here it is. Is this the one? I mean, HTML5 shiv stars 4,878. That's probably a good sign. Probably a good sign. And this is it on GitHub. And we are going to use this command here. The dev part, I'm not too sure about. I feel that does that in a kind of, it saves it in a dev environment, But I'm just going to use this because we're working on quite a small scale, and I know exactly where the files are going to be and going to go and what they're going to do. I'm intrigued on what that -dev does. I'm wondering what it does do. I mean, let's have a quick gander. I know --save. What that does is save. It just saves it to the project. It puts it into that bower.json file that gets created, which I've just remembered that we haven't created. So we need to do bower init, just like we did with Node. So I need to do bower init, and it's going to think about it for a few moments. And yep, here we go again. So Bread.li is the name. The version is 0.01 again, and the description is, and we can pretty much steal it from this package.json file because I'm lazy, but also want to be completely consistent. Paste that into there. Goes a bit weird in the command line. The main file is index.html for now. It could change, actually, it could change. And these are, what types of modules does this package expose? I have no idea what these are. I'm just going to pick globals. I assume that's just general. Keywords. Where are my keywords? Here they are. Website. WebKit? Website. CMS. Jekyll. GitHub. Authors. You see, look, it does David Downs and it puts my email as well. Whereas in here, in this file, it didn't do it. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to match the syntaxing. Excuse me. So I am the author. MIT. Homepage. No, it's... Whoa. See, it's doing that. It does this bit weird. HTTP // Yeah, it does look weird, doesn't it? But I think it's okay. That's the website. Currently stored components and as dependencies. Yes or no? That's interesting. That's quite a good way. That's if you've installed it without using the --save. So if you've installed using Bower like HTML5 Shiv or jQuery or something like that, it will look into the file, find it, and go, right, put these in the Bower file. So now they are all linked up and relative to the project as opposed to relative to your machine where you've just got them on there. So yes. Add commonly ignored files? Yes. We want you to ignore the files you recommend, Bower. Would you mark this package as private, which prevents it from being accidentally pushed or published to the registry? Yes, I wouldn't want it to go up there because it's not going to be a package that I'm providing for other people. It's not my... I'm not creating a new jQuery. I'm not creating a plugin of some kind for people. So I would like to mark this as private, yes, so it never gets pushed or published. The name is Bread.li, version 001, Bread.li website. My username, description, main file, keywords, license, private is true, ignored files. Brilliant. See, look, it just ignores like tests, Bower components, which is the folder that it will be putting the Bower components in, surprisingly. And no modules, obviously, because we don't need to be accessing anything from there. So, looks good. Yes, indeed. Git status. Bower file. So let's do git add bower.json and git commit m creates Bower file cool. So we do need these files. We need the package.json for Node or npm, and we need bower.json, which should have been created in here. What have I undone? Oh, I've saved that. I need to save my email. In here, there it is, bower.json. And it looks almost exactly the same. And they are the same kind of concept, but they manage slightly different parts of your website. So npm is your list of everything you need for your house. If we try and use this analogy again, everything in the house that you... no, this would be a better explanation. Bower.json is listing out all the bricks, all the mortar, all the windows, doors, and everything you need in your website. The package.json file, which is created by npm, is your list of vehicles that you need in order to build a house. So I need my digger, or I need my crane, or I need my laborers. I need the builders. I need those guys. Like, I need all those, and that is your list of them in your package.json file. And then bower.json is the list of all the actual things that you'll be using to build the site with. So for one of them is the HTML5 shiv.js. So let's install that. So I'm going to do another git status to check whether our file is clean, and package.json has been changed, and that is because Bower has changed. Oh no, that was because the email has been added in there. No, it hasn't changed yet. So git commit package, and the message is adds email to author. Great. So we're all committed up. We haven't pushed yet. We will push that in a moment. What we're going to do is we're going to install that HTML5 shiv. We'll come back to that -save another time. I want to get this in here, and we're coming up to an hour. Wow. For you patient people out there, thank you for patiently watching this. Okay, so Bower install HTML5 shiv -save, and that would save it to my project. Done. So git status. Here we are. Look, we've modified our bower.json file, and it's also created a components folder, and that's in here. And there's HTML5 shiv. And inside our bower.json file is HTML5 shiv. It's as easy as that. So now what we need to do is we need to add Bower components to our gitignore file. So here's a little trick. I can do open gitignore, because I can't see it. It's prefixed with a dot. I can't see it in the Finder. So I can open it this way. Neat little trick. And put our bower.components file in there. Look, let's just zoom in a little bit so you can see that. So we've got in here our ignored files, and note that these two directories are in here, and that was created when we first made the repo in the very first video. And there's the sites directory, or the site directory, and this is for busting cache, obviously, for Sass, because Jekyll also processes Sass files, SCSS files, and regular CSS files as well. They process them into your project. Well, just like it does with MD files and everything else. Great, so let's do that. Let's do git status again. Okay, so Bower components folder has gone from our commits, or gone from our repo. It's hidden away. So we need to do git commit dot git ignore, and the message is adds Bower components directory to ignored list. And the next one is Bower, so git status again. Let's check that. So we'll do git commit Bower, and the message is adds HTML5 3 HTML5 shiv component. Cool. So now we can do git push like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a merge on this video, so you at least get to see one of me merging it. So let's go straight into this. I kind of want to cut this short before we get an hour in. So we've done these two. We've pretty much done this. Haven't had any ideas from anyone. If anybody has any ideas, then I'll be able to tick this off, or it'll be forever unticked. Let's have a look again. We go to the home page and click this green button here to do a merge. Sorry, not merge, a pull request. And this is our base, GitHub pages, and we want to put the master changes into GitHub pages. And down here we've got the git ignore change, the configuration file has been created, the Bower file has been created, our little return that I missed on the index file, and I added my email in to the package.json file. Cool, so create pull request, and this is a creation of Bower file and Jekyll setup. Wow, I cannot type. So let's have a look at our commits, and then we can round up what we did. Creates config file for Jekyll. Creates Bower file. Adds first Bower component. Cool. And then we can reference our issue that we created with the list of like an itinerary of the items that we wanted to resolve with our development. So I wonder if this will work if I do fixes. If I do fixes or resolves, yeah, resolves hash Jekyll startup. Was that the right one? Was that it? Let's check issues. That was it. Hash 4. So resolves hash 4. So I'm wondering, this is like a commit message in here, but it's very like formatted commit message. I'm wondering whether it will do this and it will close that issue off. It'd be cool if it does, but I don't know if it will. It remains open. It's referenced. And it will probably remain open because it's formatted message. It's got a link in here. Anyway, development. Assign this to myself. And this is what I do is I check it. Obviously it's all green to go because there's not much changes. So the difference is hopefully we won't be able to access this file because it will start using Jekyll and it will stop looking at these files and pointing to the root of the repo. We're coming up to an hour. We're just in the nick of time. Merge. Done. And there we go. So now we can't access this file. But the site is still running. And we cannot access CNAME because it doesn't exist. Job done. I'm going to end it right there because this is blooming long. And I may pick up another video in a moment. We shall see. But thank you for watching.